Hi, I'm Jean Weinberg, co-founder of Jack's Tomorrow, joined by my husband and co-founder, Jack's dad, Kyle Czepiel. You'll hear from him in just a moment. First, I want to say thank you to Liz and Eva for the opportunity to present today and to share with you a bit about our foundation, Jack's Tomorrow. You'll see here a photo of Jack. This is from a recent fishing trip we went on with Jack and our two older kiddos, and he had a phenomenal day, and it was a ton of fun. So big smiles all around. Um, if we go to our next slide, I'm just going to touch briefly on our mission. We have a really narrow focus at Jack's Tomorrow, which is funding research to develop a treatment for PURA syndrome. And I think this is really important to note that all the funds that we raise are really all geared towards funding science with that aim. There's a lot of important work to be done, but this is really our narrow, specific mission. Next slide. While we started Jack's Tomorrow, because of Jack, of course, what we're working towards is not just a treatment for Jack. As we like to think about, it's really about our tomorrow. And these are just some of the beautiful faces. You'll see Jack here with his favorite character, Pete the cat, from his recent birthday, Thomas, Colette, Dalton, Hayden, Amina. This is really what it's all about. This isn't about one child or one patient. This is about our entire community and finding a treatment for everyone. Next slide. A bit about our progress. So we launched 4 years ago in April 2022. Since we started, we've raised over $1.1 million. About 440,000 of that comes from our annual golf outing, Swing for a Cure. If any of you are following us on social media, you've probably seen some of the fun photos, people out there golfing and eating and drinking and having a ton of fun. Of course, we've had great sponsors and great participation. But honestly, my favorite part is that every year we're heading into our third year. We've had more Pura families there, which is really the best part of that day. A bit about our funding impact. So to date, we have distributed $750,000 in research grants. And the thing that we're most proud of is really what that has enabled. And what that is a growing toolbox for scientists to be able to study PURA syndrome. And we've actually had some great partnership with the PURA Syndrome Foundation and some grants that they've given out. For example, utilizing the iPSCs that the Jackson Lab created with our funding, the PURA mouse models, which are been utilized throughout the United States and throughout the world. So that's really, there's a lot of things that our funding has enabled, but I think that toolbox for researchers that continues to grow is really significant. A bit on our funded partners. So because of the generosity of many of our donors, we have several major partners as of right now. So one I just touched on, the Jackson Laboratory. So Jackson Laboratory, we initially approached them when we first started Jack's Tomorrow to see they're best in class, known for creating mouse models, among other things. We wanted to see if they would create a mouse model for Pura. We were fortunate that the answer was yes. So that really kicked off our work with them. Additionally, we have funded them to create iPSC lines. Those are available for order. I know many of you who are listening might have already taken advantage of being able to order some of those iPSC lines, particularly Selena Lozano out of UC Davis and others. And then last but not least, the gene overexpression study, which those of you might have heard coming out of ASGCT in Boston, which Kyle will touch on in a bit in terms of the news out of that. But that is sort of one of our major partners, as well as the Yale School of Medicine. And what Dr. Zhang is doing in his lab is to help characterize the Pura mouse models. So this is meticulous work to characterize the behavior of the PURA mice. This includes whether their body weights, their behaviors, their memories, all around how the PURA mice behave. And this data is important, of course, because it sets a benchmark so that if and when we have a therapeutic, we can use these models for testing to see the impact of a potential therapy, sort of a before and after, if you will. And then I'll just mention when we first started Jack's Tomorrow, many of you know we launched a PURA syndrome cure roadmap to really help prioritize how we should begin our mission. So one of the things we heard loud and clear was the need for more animal models. So we had previously funded a worm and zebrafish model at the Hospital for Sick Kids with Jim Dowling. Unfortunately, there was a number of drugs tested to see if there would be a positive effect on those worms and fish. That did not net any further investigation or warrant any further research. And then at Baylor, they created a PURA fly model, and that had a strong phenotype, but given the PURA mouse model that Jackson Lab developed was obviously a stronger model than a fly. We have prioritized that work. So I'm going to send it over to Kyle, who's going to talk a little bit about our approach, which we wanted to make sure we mentioned today.
Thank you, Jean, and thank you, Liz and Eva and the community for listening in today. As Jean mentioned, our approach has been pretty well defined since the start, and that is to be transparent, collaborative, inclusive, and resourceful. For those of you who have attended press conferences, you've heard of us speak about this, and our goal is to essentially work in a collaborative and sharing approach. We share updates as soon as we can. We work with scientists that share the same goals. By working together in an open manner, we can achieve success. The other part is to be inclusive and resourceful. We do not need to reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of rare diseases that are focused on the similar approach and similar goals here, and we can learn from them. We can learn what other diseases have done, what steps they have taken, and the paths that they have chosen. Which leads me to our boards. We have our executive and scientific advisory boards have been built with the same model in mind, and that is to lean on their experiences and let their experiences help to guide us. Our scientific advisory board has several members that are actively working on other rare diseases while working with us on PURA syndrome. Rare diseases such as SYNGAP and STXBP1. Their experiences with those conditions can help open the avenues for us as to what's worked and what hasn't. They help guide us. They help us choose which models to work on and which researchers to put money into. We really are incredibly thankful for all of their support and all of their guidance throughout the years. You'll see many familiar names here that have presented in the past and will be presenting on PURA syndrome. What we're really excited about is this slide, and I think this says a lot, and Jean mentioned it earlier, and that is that the PURA community is gaining momentum. A year ago, we had the pleasure, and Jean presented a slide with the Jackson Laboratory at ASGCT, which is the American Society for Gene and Cell Therapy, down in New Orleans a year ago. There was one PURA slide at that conference, and we were happy to be there. This year, we're happy to say that in Boston, at ASGCT in Boston, there were 5 PURA slides and posters presented. It was really impressive to see the community coming together and the expansion of the network of the PURA community. There were presentations from Yale, Cincinnati Children's, which is Ben Kokenauer, UC Davis, Selena, Penn Medicine, and Jack's Tomorrow in collaboration with the Jackson Laboratory. We couldn't be more excited about the gain of momentum that we're getting. I can think back to 4 years ago when we launched Jack's Tomorrow, and it was an effort to get scientists on the phone to understand what PURA syndrome was, let alone be interested in working with us. Through this concerted effort over the last several years and expanding sort of the understanding of what PURA is, developing the mouse model, developing the iPSC lines, and getting it easier for scientists to work on PURA syndrome, we've expanded the overall profile of the condition and made it easier for scientists to want to work with us. The number of conversations that we had in Boston with people that had not worked with PURA to date, but were now interested because of the opportunities in front of them was tremendous. And really, we want to thank the community overall for participating and really pushing this. What can we do? I think as we just outlined, the biggest things are to continue to socialize and expand the profile of PURA syndrome. Through that, we will garner more interest in the community of researchers and scientists who want to work on our condition and want to partner with us as we move forward. Us as a community can make all of this happen, and we want to thank you all for listening today and for being part of this exclusive community. Together, we're going to get to an end game that finds happiness for all of our children. Thank you.